revenue neutral budget. Anybody here like to speak to the revenue neutral budget?
Us to present
No,
space?
you can either present now or present when we talk about the budget ordinance. Either one.
Hi, guys. My name's Aaron Good. I'm the vice chair of the library board. I'll let these other individuals introduce themselves, and then I'll tell you why we're here.
Gerard Arontovich with the library board.
Chelsea Paxton, also with the library board.
Wendy Conover, Library Director.
I'm Mary Onko with the Friends of the Library Board.
Barbara Matthews, President of Friends of the Library Board.
Cynthia Beal, Secretary, Friends of the Library Board.
We have our treasurer
He's on the phone.
here, Randy
In
Mezak.
case you have any questions.
We're all here representing the request that's on this piece of paper that Wendy will be handing out. You guys have all seen this before.
St. Wingard, so.
This is our 2022 budget to request to remain with the formula levy instead of going with the revenue neutral. And we're here to answer any questions you might have or any conversation you want to have about that.
Any questions?
Good? Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Thank you for your
thank
time.
Thank you for your time.
Don't see anybody else to speak to this?
Okay. Hi. My name is Cynthia Beal, and I was just wondering if you didn't approve the exemption, or whatever the word is, where would the money go? I mean, so there's a mill levy and it gathers this much money, and I was like, well, so if we don't get it all, what happens to the extra?
You mean if we stay revenue neutral? So if we would stay revenue neutral, the citizens just wouldn't have to pay on the assessed valuation increase from their property tax levy. So each year, the county assesses your property based on recent sales. And so if in the past few years, it's been going up each year, which means that the assessed valuation, your houses are worth more, land's worth more, so then your taxes go up based on the value of that property.
So for the last year, which is the revenue you're
Right.
dealing with now, that wasn't affected by, I mean, we still gathered all the revenue, correct?
Correct. So this year, the Senate passed Senate Bill 13 that
Correct.
requires this new hearing
Mhm.
for us. So that's what kind of triggered that. Every year prior, we've always accepted the assessed valuation because that's just kind of normal. We haven't increased mill levies or anything, but we've accepted the assessed valuation. So it just throws in another question that the council has to answer now is, are we going to go ahead and accept it, hear from the citizens, notify the citizens, and hear their thoughts, or are we going to go ahead and accept the assessed valuations as presented from the county? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I just wasn't hearing the answer to my question.
Okay.
And that is, okay, so all the revenue is gathered, there it is. Should the vote be made to not make it revenue, whatever, what would happen to that extra money over the amount of,
So if we accepted the assessed valuation increases,
if you did not, what would happen to that money? I just want to bring that up. What would happen to the money? Because I think it's already been gathered, and I think it's important that the library be supported. I mean, if you can answer that for me.
so that money hasn't been collected from the citizens yet?
It has not?
No, not until next year.
We're answering whether or not we accept it from the citizens coming on. So there's no money, yeah.
I can see
And
now.
there'll be years where there is no assessed value increase. I mean, if there's a big market crash in the housing, et cetera, it could go down.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, these are the years where there's a margin between what was and what is this year, and whether or not to accept that when it comes.
Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate your patience. Thank
It's
you.
confusing. We've had a lot of meetings about it.
Anybody else like to speak? All right, we'll close the portion of the hearing for revenue neutral and open up a hearing for the annual city budget. So, anybody like to speak just to you already spoke, so I guess same comments, move to this one. All right. Guess we'll close that hearing. And then the only agenda item is the budget ordinance. What the council would like to do. I think, you know, in discussions in the finance committee, it was already discussed, essentially we're gonna exceed budget neutral, so the library can get their funding for their 4 mills. So that kind of throws out the neutral side of the discussion. It's kind of what we discussed in the finance committee is there. So I think the only question that was kind of left from the finance committee was what we wanted to do from the library's 4 mills, accepting their assessed valuations and the rest of it, the rest of the fund from the assessed valuation increase. If we're going to go ahead and accept a full assessed valuation increase, or if we're going to stay revenue neutral on the city side, and while still giving the library their increase. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I know Corey and I have been in all the finance committees, so.
Can we hear more about that?
Sure.
Let's discuss.
I can go ahead. Yeah, I've kind of been on the side of erring toward accepting all the assessed value for several reasons. I guess it makes me a little uncomfortable just randomly putting the brakes on the way it's always been done. As I said before, there are going to be years where there is no assessed value increase, and I feel like that the yo-yoing in that sort of corrects itself. There are going to be years when you have it and years when you don't. And I would hate, I mean, we're going through the budget process right now and we're thinking about, okay, we get the salary study, we have all these other things coming up. Like, we don't accept it. And then 2 months later, if something goes wrong, we're like, why don't we accept that? And I just think we're going to be in a lot of those positions. I have a lot of thoughts on Senate Bill 13. I don't really understand the logic behind it. You know, I think the whole purpose of it was that it's more transparent. It gives the citizens a chance to say whether or not to accept it or not. I haven't heard from anybody to not, so I don't think that we should make any changes and stay the course unless there's vehement opposition to it.
I just think the other side of it was, that's, you know, we talked about it in the finance committee and, you know, I kind of came to the conclusion that I'm okay with that as long as we identify where that extra money's going to. So I think Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong, to fund the salary study that we received is about $30,000.
It depends on which option you choose. If you go to number 1 option, which would be 50th percentile, it's right around 20,000. But if you go to the 60th percentile, which is what we recommend, it's around 30,000 a year for, and that's going to be ongoing, of course. And you have your health insurance, which we do have coming up, which we won't know until probably another month. That's just the way they work the health insurance. But I suspect with all that's happened as far as the pandemic, whatever, we'll see an increase in our health insurance this year. How much, I don't know. And on it goes. But yeah, to answer your question, there's probably another at least 30,000 increase in just to bring everybody up to that 60th percentile.
Right.
And I think I included some of that data in your packet. So if you look at, there's 2 different options there. If you just cut right through all the numbers, the bottom line on one is about 20,000, the other was about 30,000. So not completely done with the study yet, but almost. So you get the gist of it.
I would love it if we could identify for the remaining, it'd be about 60,000, right? Because if we do the option with a 30,000 salary increase, right, then there was 90 total. That was the difference in the assessed value.
Difference, I think, if you go with just leaving the assessed valuation, it's a little over 100. It's like 105.
Okay, so kind of in the ballpark there.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we can identify it, that would be great. Here, my fear is this. So you don't accept it. Let's say and it breaks down to, you know, a couple bucks in the pockets of the citizens when they don't have their assessed value increase, you know, monthly. You know, let's say you don't accept it and you decide, well, the budget's already set, we're good, and then you know, something comes up. Let's say something, you know, out of public works goes wrong, like we've seen several times. You know, we have to come in here and okay, well, where are we going to find this money? And we have to end up borrowing elsewhere. Well, then the next year for that budget cycle, if you're having to, you know, pay for something else, aren't you going to have to increase your mill levy anyway next year to make up for what you should have already maybe accepted the year before? That's the challenge for me. It seems like we just got out of a strategic planning meeting last week where we identified all these needs, and we're going to sit here and tell the community that we don't need it. It's hard for me.
I get it, and that's why, you know, I discussed in the, you know, budget meetings that if we, obviously, there's a need to fund the city. I mean, we have a salary study that shows us that there's a need there. And if we wanted to earmark or create a fund for rehabbing the brick streets with the
Sure.
remaining so that we can start saving ahead of time for a grant that we're gonna write in the future, I would be okay with that. I don't feel comfortable just taking it just to take it, just to say that, you know, I would like a plan, you know.
But we never felt comfortable until Senate Bill 13 told us to feel uncomfortable. We always found a need for it, because there is a need for it. It's just, I don't feel uncomfortable because that's the way it was always done. Senate Bill 13 told us to be uncomfortable. Right? None of us were uncomfortable before.
It made us think about it, yeah, a little bit more micro than
Right?
what was prior, so yes. But what would be the negative effects of creating a brick street fund?
I mean,
To start saving, I mean, it's at least sitting in a pot of money
Yeah.
that,
yeah, I mean, I think we're moving forward with the strategic plan, and if we can identify some of those top go-getters, why not?
Well, it's already up there.
Yeah.
We identified that.
Sure.
The plan doesn't need to be complete to know that that's gonna be one of the top ones.
How you guys feel?
Tell you the truth, I think it's very confusing. And since I haven't been involved in all of the finance meetings, I'm really a little bit lost, just to be candid.
No, we were in several meetings where, it wasn't until the 4th or 5th one where I was like, oh, okay, I'm starting to understand a little bit what this is all about.
Brian and
respect that.
missed out on all of that, so.
Right.
So can we go back to this salary study that's in our packet? So this will help fund, Glenn, you said the 60th percentile. Is that for everybody listed on here?
Yeah, that's for all employees. We have about 45 employees, I believe. So and they're just done by the categories. But I think we covered everybody who currently works full-time and I think even part-time for the city in there. So that would be the recommended amount to go for based on that study that we did one 5 years ago, and the recommendation was to continue to give merit raises as well as COLA, and we've done that. So we're not dramatically out. Really, we thought we were going to probably look in 50 to 60,000 as falling, because that's what we did last time. We were way behind. I don't know when the previous one was done, but it had been a while. So we're thinking every 4 to 5 years to do another wage and salary study. It's worth it. It shows where you're at in the market. The thing about what we're doing, I think this is what Corey's getting at, is there are so many unknowns. The budget you're looking at now is a 2022 budget. Our fiscal year follows the calendar year. So you're sitting here in September and we're guessing where our revenue and expenses are going to be at the end of 2022, which is a good, a year and a half away. You really, with all the volatility and prices of oil and natural gas and asphalt and concrete and whatever out there, we're guessing at the numbers just for basic requirements. So wage and salary study on top of that, revenue neutral sounds like a good option in a theoretical way, but in a practical way, we don't have an expense neutral budget. That's what you'd have to actually accomplish as well, which means you aren't going to be able to do the things you're talking about, including a wage and salary increase. There's not. So, you have to match. We have to present a balanced budget. So it has to be, revenue has to match your expenses. We do that every year. Senate Bill 13 did not change that. So in just basic terms, if you're going to reduce your amount of revenue, you'll have to reduce your amount of expenses as well. So that's the bottom line.
but we funded all the departments and all their requests.
Yeah, we did. But again, we're guessing at where the price of whatever is going to be, going forward here in the next 18 months. And I think that's hard to do. It's hard to do every year. This year, it's really hard to do because there's just so much volatility in everything that we purchase. And we do have a number of needs that are identified. So, from the staff perspective, we're saying hold the mill levy where it's at. We have the same sales tax that we've had since last year, and that's been growing. So, I think we came through the pandemic in pretty good shape as far as small cities in the state of Kansas. We did a pretty good job coming through. So, If we hold things as they are, I think we can do the things we want to do. As far as addressing brick streets and other infrastructure projects, they're always very expensive. So we need to start now, talking about and saving for those things going forward. So that's where we're coming from a staff perspective. Don't know if that helps you or not.
It does.
Somewhat.
Yeah, we've been at this for at least 6 months as a committee, so.
Yeah, the real big, to really simplify it, we have the budget set for next year. We have X amount of space between not accepting the mill, or the assessed value versus accepting, it's about 100,000. We've always accepted it. Now we have the option not to. We've always had the option not to, but now we have to ask and kind of do a formal process about it. And, I mean, do you feel comfortable not? You know, and I think it's more of a philosophical debate, you know, is there so much volatility in maybe, I think there's volatility regardless of the pandemic or not.
Yeah, there always is, and
Yeah.
again, you're forecasting out so far in advance, and I think sort of what you're getting at is one of the discussions we had with Ben and with the committee when we were doing this, is that, well, let's say you do go down 2 mills, and how many years are you gonna have to raise the mill back up rather than keeping it where it's at? Now you're talking about going up 2 or 3 mills, and that's a much harder discussion to have than keeping it flat. If we're coming in and say, hey, you gotta go up 2 mills this year and then 3 mills the next year just to break even with what you had 3 years ago. That's a difficult discussion for any governing body to have when you're talking about raising the mill levy just to break even again. And well, from our point of view, we don't want to get into that. We'd rather keep it where it's at.
And I'm not arguing against that. The only thing I'm discussing, I guess, or in my mind, is, okay, we have, if we're going to accept this as valuation, that's extra money, right? That's coming into the city. Let's just start a fund to start saving for something we know that is going to be in the future, which is restoring our brick streets.
If that makes people more comfortable, then by all means. I'd be comfortable with it either way, just because I know that it does get used. But if that's the bridge to get there, I totally understand that. I respect that.
%3 increase on your property taxes. This year, I think it was 5 to 6% increase, if I remember correctly, on property taxes, so this was a little bit more of a year than right. But 2009 to 2013 saw a decrease in assessed valuations. And then they sort of worked themselves back out to what we are now.
So in that scenario, you'd be not accepting the assessed value this year, or for 2022, right? And then you have to catch back up with the assessed value, assuming, the assumption is that you should begin accepting it again, right? If you're gonna catch back up to the mill levy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that scenario, and we've talked about that, this being the only year, don't accept, kind of get our bearings together, and then kind of move forward with the understanding we're probably gonna accept it from here on out. And that will catch you up.
So we would stay back.
No, because again, to fund the library.
Sorry.
You're fine. I'm glad you're asking.
To fund the library, you're automatically not staying flat. So
Right.
now the mill levy can stay flat, and that's like a high level of and then the assessed valuation is like the lower, more micro part of that. So the mill levy can stay flat, and you still collect the extra $100,000.
Right. But if you don't accept the assessed value, then it becomes a math problem. If you don't accept the assessed value, then the mill levy, just because it's a math problem, has to go down.
Yeah, because
To
you're not
about 2 mills, yeah.
So that's kind of where all the discussions went.
So if there's a 100,000 or 90,000, whatever, so does that go into the general fund? Or does it?
Correct.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
property taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is why that salary study was that we went right to that one, because that the general fund funds all the, police salaries and all that. So if there's a big discrepancy there and we're already at 60,000, it's no brainer. I mean, we're right there. It ended up being, depending on the scenario, but it looked like we're about 30,000 maybe. Kind of surprising. It's a good thing. Means we weren't underpaying people as bad. But, that's it would have been a no-brainer had that been off more. I'm glad it's not, but, now we're kind of left with that margin of about 60, 70,000, assuming we fulfill that salary study.
So essentially, either way, we go above revenue neutral, no matter what, on this scenario. Now the question is, do we go all the way to our current mill levy, or do we back it down just slightly?
We have the freedom to go wherever. We can go.
That over these last 6 months. Because I feel like we could have met that goal too easily. Like we're talking about meeting the goal for the staff of the city. That's how I feel. We are where we're at right now, so.
Yeah, I don't think the cap at 4 is fair for the library either.
What do you guys think? Budget.
What do you think?
I mean, again, I'm good at accepting the assessed valuation if we set it into a fund. If we identify and say, okay, we're putting it, the excess that we're collecting from citizens into start saving for the bridge.
Which I thought was the point of the bill, right? Is you have to justify accepting.
When we bond, not
Oh,
right
okay.
now.
Right.
Just when we bond.
I think the spirit of the bill was to give the citizens a chance to.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about Senate Bill 13?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Oh, yes. The spirit of the bill was essentially to notify everybody of the increase in your assessed valuation.
Right.
Because your taxes will go up. Your mill levy might not be your taxes.
So we don't have to announce what this might mean. We can
Correct.
as a group here.
We can agree as a group, but we don't have to announce.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, I'm comfortable with that. Yeah. I think that's part of the planning process, like you were saying anyhow, so.
Yeah, if you were to disagree with that, then you disagree with the strategic plan process. So I naturally agree. And I think I'll feel more comfortable with that. Right now, everything feels so uncomfortable because it's the first year. It seems like we get a new update about Senate Bill 13 all the time that nobody had thought of yet that we have to deal with. I think next year I'll obviously feel more comfortable. There'll be a plan in place. We'll have some very crystal clear goals for where we want to go, and that accepting that assessed value is much more comfortable.
Entertain a motion? The ordinance on? I don't think there's.
No, we didn't give you anything there, but if you want to adopt the ordinance, you just make a motion to just read the first paragraph there, an ordinance adopting or approving, adopting, appropriating.
Okay.
That's it.
I move we approve ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating by fund the budget of the city of Baldwin City, Kansas for the year beginning January 1, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Corey?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
All right, motion passes 3-0. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Julie. Been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes, we're adjourned.
Susan.
Okay, say that.
Thank you.